Well, hey, everybody, welcome to the Vanderbloemen Leadership Podcast, where one of my favorite things to do is introduce you to friends of mine. And today I want to introduce you to Carl Barnhill. Carl's running a pretty amazing company. He's really latched on to the idea that, everything is moving visual. And if you don't believe me, tell me the last time you saw the word Starbucks on a coffee cup. It hadn't been there in a long time. It's a visual now. And he got a chance to visit with him at Modern Church Leader Conference, and we just hit it off and realized this is somebody that my friends need to meet. So, Carl, thanks for joining us today. Welcome.
William, always a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. Hey, listen, why don't you do that? Just introduce yourself to the audience. Maybe give a little bit of your life story. I mean, who
Sure.
ends up wanting to do church visuals as a living?
Yeah.
Like, tell me
Yeah.
what the road was.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I started my career early 20s working for a lady named Kay Arthur. She was a Bible study teacher, and she had a
Precepts.
television, Precept Ministries International.
Yes.
So I came out of college and got like a junior editor position on her television show. And this show at the time, I mean, this is 20 plus years ago. So we're talking huge international audience. I think the show went to like 100 million homes worldwide or something crazy. But this was like the height of, it wasn't like TBN, but it was kind of like that, that kind of vein Bible teaching program. We really did a lot to kind of bring it up into a little bit more modern context.
Kind of like the Chuck Swindoll.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of era, Tony Evans, that kind of era of people. And so I started as an editor on her show, and then within 6 months, my boss left, and then another 6 months, his boss left. So I find myself early 20s, not knowing that much. I'd done radio and things before, but being asked to lead a media department at this international ministry of people, probably a team of 10 or 12 at the time, all older than me. And so I learned some leadership lessons very, very quickly of how to lead a team of people that are older than me and really more experienced than me. So I led the media team there at Precept for a bit, and then went to a large church in Mississippi. I think it was the largest church in Mississippi at the time. And so this was a church of multiple campuses, and I came in as the video guy that was working both the Sunday experience. So I was in charge of the volunteers and making sure that Sunday happened. And this is before Resi and like easy live stream things. And so there was a lot of like physically hooking up drives, driving them across town to campuses, hooking them up with a light system, and hang on a second, turn another chorus, we're not ready. That kind of, so it was very, kind of crazy back then. But I did that, and then I did content also. So I was the guy making videos and motion graphics and stuff like that. And so this was a large church. We probably did, this was 20,000 people on a Sunday, something like that. And I was the only guy. I was the only guy doing both. And then eventually they split me off, and I was the only guy doing the
what
content.
year would that have been?
This would have been, probably 12 years ago, probably 15 years ago.
We were probably, it's Pine Lake Church for those playing at home, and a fantastic church. And we've gotten to do a ton of search work for them over the years. And it's big enough that I think my first trip there was about that time. And I went for my first meeting, and I just went to the camp. I put in Google Maps for, Pine Lake Church. I ended up in the Clinton, Mississippi campus.
Well, that was in a strip mall, so you were
Exactly.
in the wrong place.
It was not the right place, but I didn't even think to put broadcast campus, reservoir campus, that sort of thing. But
yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so I found myself there, and I was the only content guy, and my thought is, God kind of laid it on my heart that if I'm the only guy at a church this size, doing motion graphics, doing video content, all of it, there's no way a church of 5,000, 2,000, 200 is going to afford a guy like me, bring in a guy like me. And what I found there too is that motion graphics was very rare. I thought that everybody did it. I didn't know that like I was a rare bird that could do motion graphics. And I still find that it's hard to find motion designers in the church space that love Jesus. And so that led me on a journey to start this company. I worked for a church after that, New Spring Church in South Carolina, just to kind of get the boat closer. And then launched. I was only at New Spring a couple years because it moved very fast, where churches needed content. They needed, and they couldn't afford a graphic designer or a video position or multiple creative people full time. And so, could we provide a path that gives them off the shelf media content and also custom stuff for a lower rate? And I work for a bunch of churches, and so it kind of works for me to do that. And then that kind of took off, and now we're 30 people on the team, something like that. So
it's amazing.
Crazy.
And I got to tell you, Carl, when I really, the light bulb went off for me when we were filming a video together was, I thought about my mother's church. It's a great church. It's in the hills of North Carolina, small town. It's just what you'd think, red brick church, kind of the county seat church sort of thing. And I think it's been here 200 years now. I mean, it's an old church. Maybe 150 people on a Sunday, maybe 200. Get plenty of resource, but 150 or 200, which still makes them larger than average. Average in the U.S. for Protestants is about 109 on a Sunday. So if you say, well, we're just a small church, we're 125. No, actually, you're running 25% above average.
Yeah, I heard 64 recently. I heard that.
That could be. It could be.
Yeah, crazy.
It is football season in the SEC, so it might be down a little bit right now.
That's fair. Good point.
But, the pandemic hits and, necessity is the mother of invention. And so John, her young pastor who had just arrived, said, well, let's start live streaming. And the reality is, who knows? It's a bit of a straw man argument. But if the new young preacher had come into town and said, I want to start video streaming, I don't know that would have gotten out of committee, right? Like that would have died on the vine. But because the pandemic, and John had his, I'll get the age wrong, but 9-year-old daughter holding a DSLR camera. And that was how they captured things. And then they figured out. And I just thought, so many churches have gone to this now and should, right? It's the new front door to the life in the congregation, but none of them have it figured out. And honestly, when people call us for a search, people may not know this, but half our work is for churches under 500. Half our church work is for churches under 500 in attendance. I think something like 30% of our work is for churches under 200 in attendance. So we serve a lot of churches like this. And every now and then they'll call and say, we really think we need to do video. We're ready to invest the money. We're willing to spend $50,000 on somebody. I'm like, nobody's going to be happy with that. The person making 50 and the product that comes out, everybody's going to walk away sad. So for me, the light bulb went off when I heard, this is an area where I don't know. Is it fair to say fractional employment or outsourced employment or
exactly right.
Get part of a pro for part of the time. And that's probably all you need at a normal sized church.
Correct. Yeah. And we've gotten the price way down to under $300 a month to get you custom graphics and access to a whole library that you can kind of tweak and stuff too. So, and we were told we did a lot of research when we were kind of coming out with these custom media plans, that if you can get me under $300, I don't have to get approval for it. I don't have to go up the chain. Committee approval, right? And so we serve a lot of church plants in that way, that they can spend $299 a month, so under $300, and get custom graphics from a pro, and then have access to this whole library of pre-done stuff. So it really brings that $50,000 down to $300 a month. Now you can go up a little bit from there, but our highest monthly plan is $1,500 a month. You get graphics and video. And so you're getting a professional graphic designer and professional motion designers for $1,500 a month. And what I can see, you might be seeing this too, that a lot of the video and creative people that are on staff at churches are leaving those church staffs, and I'm grabbing them because it's almost more affordable or more lucrative is maybe not the right word, but better situation for them, for the creative, to get paid more, to not have to deal with the politics of the church. Yes, I said that out loud. That they can
All
they
churches don't have politics.
I know. So anyway, I'm gobbling them up, and then we're working for a whole lot of churches. So it really, it's kind of a win-win on both scenario for the creative and for the church in a lot of ways.
The reality is, if you do spend the money and hire a $90,000 or $100,000 tech employee, they better be like somebody that loves your church. It's going to stay in your city, because if they're really good, they're going to get snapped up by somebody that can pay them a truckload of money.
That you're exactly right. Yep. I hate
There's
that it comes
races
down to money, but it usually
there's
does.
some races not worth entering.
Exactly right. Yeah, if you're, and that's why I think I can't find. I want to say that I don't think churches are able to find motion designers. So I always hire a motion designer on our team.
What's a motion designer?
Yeah, motion is like animation. Okay, it's like a one step down from animation. This is movement. This isn't just I can edit video. This is lower third animation. This is motion work, animation type work. And so I always hired those folks because those folks know how to edit video. A video editor doesn't necessarily know how to do motion graphics.
So tell me what you're seeing in trends. I think, I was prepping for our podcast meeting a couple months ago, and I may have mentioned this to you, but the Gen Z members of our team were saying, well, we were talking about how we do a better job of the podcast, and people were like, well, I watch my podcasts on, and no, I watch my podcasts on, and I didn't even hear where they consume the podcast. I just heard the word watch, and I'm old enough that podcast was listen.
Correct.
So am I wrong in saying visuals sort of taking over the way we're consuming media?
Visuals are absolutely how everyone consumes media. The answer is video, video, video all day long. A podcast
Tell me more about that. Give me
a
real
podcast does not necessarily mean audio only. In fact, I get a lot of questions from pastors that are like, well, we're not going to really use the video. We're just going to use the audio. Like, well, why not? I mean, like, you're already in the studio. You can jump on a Zoom, or we're on Riverside, which is super easy, super affordable. You can shoot it on your iPhone. Why would you not go ahead and capture the video, put it on YouTube or put it in other places, and the audio, you can rip off the audio and put that on Spotify, and then use the video in other places, social media platforms, YouTube, do that. So the stat on visual consumption is 80%. So meaning if a pastor speaks on Sunday, 3 days later, your congregation is going to remember 10% of what you say to them. They remember 80% of what you show to them. So my encouragement to pastors is show along with speaking, or show more than you speak. Like, use those illustrations, use a visual, use a video, both on Sunday and on social media. The way we consume is absolutely video all day long.
Well, and if you don't, if you're like, I'm not buying that, go talk to a teenager. You won't. You can video message them. You can FaceTime them, but they don't even, I don't know that my college students know how to make a phone call.
Yeah, yep. That's fair. The stats on Gen Z watching, I think it's like 4 or 5. I'll have to look at the stats, but it's like 4 or 5 hours of video like a day. Like, they're only watching YouTube. My kids are 12 and 14.
And it's almost no television.
No, yeah, absolutely not. If it is, it's a streaming service. But yeah, my kids are YouTube only.
Well, let me ask you this. There's probably people listening right now, and they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Preaching with motion. I don't know what
Yep.
emotion to graphics. I'm
Yeah.
lost. I don't even know where to start. Nobody's going to listen to me. Everybody wants to see something. I don't even have any nice clothes. I don't know what to show them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me like
Yeah.
a handful of concrete steps somebody
Sure.
could take to up their video game. And we'll
Yes.
say that hiring you is not one of those options. You got to come up with
Yeah.
different
Easy.
options.
Yeah. Okay. So when I teach a breakout at conferences, it's so interesting to me that I thought that I could start further along, but what I've found is you have to start even down to, do you have a screen in your space? So
Yep.
that's where we're starting. Is, do you have a screen in your space? So do you have a screen in your sanctuary? If not, roll in a TV. Or do you have I go to a lot of kids conferences. Do you have a TV or screen in your space? No, we don't. Okay. Go to Walmart and buy a $200 TV and roll that in or set that up on a table in your room. Like, that is step number one. And then step number two is get a presentation software, or there's a an app called Playlister that is a real easy app that you can use to upload stuff if you don't want to spend the money on a presentation software, or if you're in like a mobile space.
Yep.
Playlister is a good solution for you. But then when you're ready to take the next step, it's ProPresenter. So we work with Easy Worship, we work with Media Shout, we work with ProPresenter, all great. ProPresenter is kind of the leading standard. So those are your first two steps: install a screen and look into a presentation software. The next thing I would tell you to do is start with ready-made media. Okay, so this is, you don't have to come to us. There's multiple people on the market, but find a marketplace or find a site that has a library of pre-done stuff done by professionals, that all you have to do is bring that down and put that into your presentation software. You don't have to be a designer. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you can download a package that is the Book of James, and it has your videos, your graphics. Download, import them into ProPresenter, lay out your slides. You're done. So I would say those are like the first 3 or 4 steps, and I can go further, but those would be the kind of the first concrete couple
Well,
of steps that I'd
and
go for.
inform me. I'm ignorant around this.
Yeah.
I preached so long ago. We bought movie clip licenses because you
Yes.
had to have a license to show it. Da, da, da. What is the
Yeah.
law
Good.
on? Can I just rip it from YouTube and show it if I can figure that out, or is that a problem?
Yeah. Great question. The answer to that is no. You cannot.
Okay, so I
Now there.
can't just rip. I just did it yesterday, so cuffs. But yeah, I showed a
Yep.
clip of President Obama giving some advice about getting stuff done. So that's off limits, huh?
Yeah, it's off limits. Now there was a ruling in the 70s or 80s that was for educational purposes. So there is the honestly, this whole arena of can I do that is very hazy,
Yep.
because there are stock sites that actually want you to use their stuff, so they're going to be vague in their legal jargon for you to use it, but really you can't. And so it is definitely a controversial thing in the space. Here's my
But
usual rule of thumb. You go ahead.
yeah, I mean,
What were you
we
gonna say?
still pay Getty Images for any photos we
Yes.
don't fake that go on our website, and are we
Right.
really going to get prosecuted for that? I don't think anybody has time to chase down all the ripped videos. But do you
True,
sleep a
but
little better? Do you
you
sleep a little better?
you do, but you'd be surprised. I've been at 2 churches where they were slapped with thousands of dollars of lawsuit. Uh, the church that you mentioned earlier, I was at in Mississippi, Pine Lake. I was there, and I got kind of called in, right? And at one point, I would been there probably a year, and they said, "Hey, we got this cease and desist from somebody. It's a $20,000 thing. Can you tell me where this came from?" And it had come from the guy that was previously there before me. So when I came in, I kind of put some license, the things in place to make sure that we were legal. But this was years ago, and
Right.
just somebody scraping the internet found it, and they had to pay a lot. So they find you. It could be years from now, but they could find you.
It's the
In
Wild
fact,
West right now.
I'll tell you this, I got a cease and desist the other day from someone, and we try so hard to be legal, but I still got one on
Yeah.
a graphic that had been on our site for years, and it wasn't anything with the graphic. It was just we used a phrase that they happened to have trademarked. That was like you wouldn't know that nobody would know that it's trademarked, but it is, and they found us, and our bad, we'll take it down. So and work with you on that. So they do fine you. So but my kind of rule of thumb for YouTube and anything like that is to make sure that you're safe. Either create an account with someone. Like when I was at New Spring, we gave away all of our kids' content. But we asked you for your name and your email. So you had a login that you logged in, and then you downloaded stuff. That gave us record of who's downloading. Is this worth it? All of that metadata. And so there was an account there, or pay for it. So if you have an account, or if you're having an actual transaction, you download this graphic for $5. There's a transaction. Those two things, and you're really safe. Like I would just call that a good rule of thumb, that if you go outside of those bounds, you're getting into some weird territory that causes things to be in question.
It's in my sense, I'm not an intellectual property attorney. Uh, Ironically, my brother is and named his firm Vanderbloemen. Isn't that funny?
That's great.
But we're in kind of a wild west right now. I mean, arguably,
Yeah.
in the presidential election, both candidates' campaign ads, forget what they spent on TV. It was people on TikTok, and they were all ripping songs and ripping like.
Yep.
but just because we're in the Wild West now doesn't mean it's not going to get sorted. And beyond that, we just found the licensing made me sleep better at night. We're doing it right.
Yes.
We're putting a good witness out there. It's not what can you get away with. It's how do we do this the right way. And I don't want to belabor the point, but I bet you there's somebody sitting out there saying, I can't roll a screen into my sanctuary, Carl. If I do that, the key won't work in my office door on Monday. Well, that's a different, you figure out how to navigate that. Well, I don't want to have to pay for some fancy media. Well, then don't use it, because you're going to have to pay a license. And I'm just here to tell you, screens are where it's at. In-person worship is better than being on a screen, but if it doesn't have visual, I just don't know that it works going forward.
That's right. Yeah, I've been talking with people at conferences, and I've kind of been amazed at the response I get from that, and it's more like we're doing fine. If I ask them like, hey, do you have a desire to reach young families coming into your church? Well, no, we're good. I'm sorry, what? You're good? Like I have to take it aback, because my argument is the stats are showing in a overwhelming fashion that media, specifically video, is what is a motivator, is how we consume content. That is being in the culture, but not of it. We're using the tools that we have available to us to reach people. So if you don't have a screen in your space, I'm not saying that there aren't younger generations out there that wouldn't still worship in your space, obviously so, but I would say there's a more of a majority that you probably want to, if you're after young families and want your church to grow, this is an area that I would consider leaning into.
Yeah, and you didn't mention it, but I'll offer my 2 cents. If you don't have video in your newsletter, it's not going to get read. Like we're in the process of converting. We're probably behind, where most really great newsletters that come out from companies have the text and a video. You can watch or read, whichever one you want. And I don't think churches have caught on to that. And it's a great pastoral moment, for pastor to sit in front of his, right, like we're doing right now, just in front of his desk. Let me tell you 5 important things that are going on in the church. It's all down below in a text, but I wanted to tell you personally, that's money, and people pay attention. So I don't know. I may be way off base, but I kind of, there's an old saying, the church is really good at raising the flag at sunset. You know, sunrise is when you raise the flag, sunset's when it comes down. We're always about a day behind on everything. And I felt like having you on would be a good wake-up call and some tangible first steps for people to say, how do we get more engagement from our people? And I think it's through video. Let me ask you this to wrap things up. What would be a couple of the most common mistakes people are making as they're trying to ingrain video into their church?
I think the most common mistake I see in ministry leaders is they're trying to do it all just to save money, and they're not spending time on the thing that God has called them to do. If God has called you to pastor in this way and spend time with your people, why are you trying to learn Canva and Photoshop? And why are you spending your time doing that? And this could be not just senior level. This is all the way down, right, to the kids director and everywhere in between. I'm not saying that you can't make some quick graphics. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, I'm seeing a lot of ministry leaders spend a whole lot of time trying to learn the things that they're not called to do. And there are other people in the space that are called to do that, and it's more affordable than ever. And if they leaned into, it doesn't have to be me. That's not what I'm saying. It could be a full-timer. It could be that, or a part-timer, or an outsource. Could be either one of those. But I think that's the biggest mistake I'm seeing is them spending time not pastoring their people, which is what God has called them to do.
Well, you know, having sat in the chair in lots of different sizes of churches, I can tell you, if you outsource, it can feel like you've failed. Happens to us with churches all the time. I know this church, I should be able to hire people just fine. Well, when did you take a course on hiring?
Right.
Like, how many times have you actually run a search? Like, we're running hundreds every day, and doesn't mean we're smart. It just means we have a whole lot of repetitions. But people are like, I feel like I'm letting my people down if I can't make the hire. I feel like I'm letting them down if I can't do Canva. I feel like it's a very, I don't know, chicken and egg, but it's cyclical. And great word. Great word. Do what you were called and trained to do, and let other people do the rest.
Yep.
Well, Carl, how can people get in touch with you? Tell us something. Hopefully you got a YouTube channel. If you don't, then we need to talk.
If I have I very much have a YouTube channel. So churchvisuals.com is our website. Everything's there. You can check us out there. It's at Your Church Visuals on YouTube. We love to have you join us there. All of that content is free on YouTube. Lots of free training there, which is this kind of stuff. It's kind of getting into the weeds of it. And we like to say that your graphics, your video is not the Holy Spirit. That's not what saves people. It's the Holy Spirit that does the saving. But your visuals matter because the gospel matters. We should be sharing the gospel in a very compelling way.
Yeah, so true. So true. Well, Carl, thanks so much for joining us today. If you're just listening to this, it's on the YouTube channel. We're converting over to video ourselves, and we're trying to learn as we go. I want to thank everybody who's listening, who's serving a local church. I know there's somebody sitting out there saying, there ain't going to be, Jesus is going to return before there's a screen in our sanctuary. I get that. There's lots of different ways you can bake visual into the other parts of your ministry. And I'm just thank you for doing what you're doing on the front lines of moving this Jesus movement forward. So, Carl, thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hey, tune in again soon. And if you go to vandercast.com, you can put your email address in there and get show notes and what's coming up next. And we will not use your email address to sell you Ginsu knives and as seen on TV products. Promise. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon.